We're live!
Woo!
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, everyone out there in the astrological community. I got Crystal Lynn joining me for this great topic we're both excited about, and I'm sure you are too. Of course, from the title, you know who we're going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing Madonna and her natal chart. I think this is a really cool chart, and I wanted to discuss it because I think Madonna is a great example of a very powerful chart and someone who has taken control of their chart and used it to its fullest potential. I look at her and I see, she came from the 80s era, and she's still relevant to this day. She's still making music, and she's still going strong. So, Crystal, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Madonna comes from my era. When I was about 13, 14, she came out, and, of course, we just couldn't believe it. It was like somebody who broke out of the box. And we were in such a traditional box and kind of rock and roll, but she just kind of blended into she could fit everywhere. You know what I mean? She could be a little rough, little tough, little schoolgirl. She was rebellious, and we all were just, fascinated by her. Who knew she would still be reinventing herself to this day?
Right.
It's unbelievable.
I guess I should give you the info now. Madonna was born August 16th, 1958 at 7:05 p.m. Now, there's this misconception that Madonna has a Virgo rising, and I'll post a link at the bottom of this video where she says her ascendant is Aquarius. And I think it came with the AM and PM thing, because at 7:05 AM, Virgo was rising, but at 7:05 PM, Aquarius was ascending. So are you ready to start? You ready to just dive in?
Dive in. Tell us what you've been looking at. Let's see.
First, like you said earlier, her ascendant is Aquarius, which gave her that ability to change and to constantly reinvent herself. I love both Prince and Michael Jackson, but where they failed at, she succeeded in being able to constantly change and go with the flow and to stay ahead of the trends and to create trends. She wasn't afraid to step out there and be a little wild and be a little crazy and, sort of speak her mind. And I think, because Aquarius does rule the 11th house of social network and other people, she was able to, she can blend into any crowd. People can relate to her, and she can relate really well to other people. So that's
and I think, it's so true. I mean, that Aquarius ascendant, they are trendsetters.
Yeah.
They get the vibrations before what happens. So she was picking up on ideas that were really before her time, and that's why she got so criticized. If you look back in her history, she was doing things before they were even considered an option. And nowadays, the stuff
it's the norm.
Is every day. It's the norm. That's a typical Aquarian that can see the ideas, and she was brave enough. What made her brave enough to do it? That's some of the questions when I look at her chart.
No, well, first and foremost, she's a Leo.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and this is what I wanted to talk about. She has, well, of course, she's a Leo, which gives her an immense confidence, but she also has Sun conjunct Pluto in her chart. She has Pluto and Virgo at 1.0 degrees, and her Sun is in Leo at 22 point something degrees. But that conjunction makes her a very powerful person. She has a strong ego. She acts courageously. She's able to assert herself when she needs to. And one of the things I wanted to talk about that you and her both have is the Sun opposite the Ascendant. She's a Leo with an Aquarius rising, which is in opposition, and you are a Virgo with a Pisces rising. So I'm sure you can give us a little more insight into this opposition.
Having that opposition, I have to say, it's very intense. And looking at her opposition, with that Aquarian energy, where it's really, that they have this self-ego, but it's kind of like, they just know who they are internally.
Mm-hmm.
The Leo, they see themselves publicly. They thrive on public attention. The Aquarius really doesn't need that. They just know who they are.
Right.
So here she's got these two strong ego scenarios, one being internal ego, I am, here I come, and the other needing to entertain.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's a powerful opposition for her. I think but it's a constant juggle of. I think that's why she was able to really invent herself and not care what other people thought. There's that Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
The Leo seems to care. We care about, they care about more how they're, how the attention they're getting. But Madonna just did it. Deal with it.
How we're being portrayed, and is it under our control?
Mm-hmm. Are we being appreciated? She really didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It was innate in her to be that trendsetter, to follow this drive, no matter, she brought controversy everywhere. She stepped out there. So
everywhere she went.
Yeah.
Now another thing I want, that catches my eye when I look at her chart, she has a stellium in the 7th house, which makes Madonna a Vesurian. The 7th house is the house of other people, and it's also the house of Libra, which, she knew how to present herself. She knew how to work with people. I think she had an inner knowing that she knew that she would need other people, other people's help to get to where she wanted to be in life. She knew how to charm people. She knew, especially with that being a Leo and having all that energy in the 7th house, she really knew how to throw on the charm to people. She knew how to present herself to people. She knew in a way she's a people pleaser. In a way, she is a people pleaser.
I do see that. I also see the fact that she has the Sun, Venus, and Uranus in Leo. That's huge.
It is.
When you look at that. And so you've got this, I even watched some documentaries on her not too long ago. I caught something, and it was really interesting. And there was actual accusation. I thought it was interesting of people saying that she was even a little bit narcissistic, And I kind of laughed because I said, well, a star, somebody that can do what she did,
right,
has to have a really strong understanding of who they are, and it's like they have to perform. They have to be in that position, especially with that much energy from the sun. I don't know. I think it was so innate in her. It just turned into such a deep drive.
Right.
And like you said, she had a good connection with other people. She knew how to make it work.
Right. And I think Leos get called narcissistic and ego people because we have this incredible belief in ourselves. And I'm sure you have it. You have Mars in Leo.
Yes.
So people get intimidated by that. They get afraid. They say, oh, you're real cocky, or, you think you're all that. It's like, why can't I believe in myself to such a degree to where, she probably knew one day I'm going to rock this world. One day I'm going to be so successful. And I'm sure when she told people that, they just looked at her like, well, who do you think you are? And 30 years later, she's telling them, I'm Madonna, baby. That's what she's telling them.
Not only that, in the very beginning of her career, she was just kind of this little scruffy thing, and nobody really gave her a lot of credit that she could even sing. Mm-hmm. But she was so catchy and so mesmerizing that you just fell in love with her. Even if you didn't like her, you couldn't help but not watch her.
Right.
And it's really interesting how over the years, as she reinvented herself time and time again, she really became an amazing artist. It didn't come out that way in the beginning, but she really grew into amazing artist. Her voice, her presentation, and there's just no limits. So, yeah.
So another thing that, when I was searching online for her ascendant, and, of course you'd see the Virgo ascendant with, the Gemini midheaven, but soon as I found the, Aquarius rising with the Saturn midheaven in Sagittarius, and I saw Saturn right there on the midheaven, I was like, there's no arguing with Saturn being in your 10th house. And
yeah.
There's no arguing with that. I was like, I'm sorry, but once I saw Saturn right there, I was like, this has got to be the correct one. This has got to be because, Of course, Saturn is at home in the 10th house.
Yes, yes.
And I'm sure before she became this big star, she had a lot of, she had to struggle. Because I like to say Saturn breaks you before he makes you. So, I'm sure she had those moments of doubt. I'm sure she had those moments of, I just want to give up right now. Or, people don't believe in me. I'm sure she had to face all of that before, she became successful.
Oh, I absolutely believe that's true. And I think if you look even at the fact that she has Moon and Mercury in Virgo, and off on that a minute, and I'll come back to that Sagittarius, but she's not, Virgos as intelligent and as skilled and amazing as they can be, they're not necessarily wannabe front runners.
Right.
And so, although she's got all this powerful energy on the outside, she's got deep insecurity on the inside. How fearful and how difficult, even though everything on the outside said, here I am, deal with it.
Big, bad, bold, I'll take on the world.
Yeah, deep inside, she's young and she's, a child at heart. It's that child heart of, and anxieties and all the different nervousnesses that she, went through and probably still goes through. But yet she's got these strong, powerful planets continuing to pull her out into the limelight. Like she's got no choice.
Right. Now, one of the things you and I both jumped on is that she has Sagittarius both in the 11th and 10th house. Mm-hmm. That's power of influence, being noticed, the ability to acquire recognition.
Yeah, and not only recognition, but world renowned.
Right.
Anytime I see midheaven in Sagittarius, they once they get their message out past their community, when they're young, it's just local. But once they get it out abroad, it's as if all the cultures, everybody can suddenly identify with this person. They have this ability to preach. They have this ability to teach.
Right.
They have in whatever they're doing. And they have, it's like the competitiveness comes out. So, I mean, she's already competitive with all the Leo. But when it goes to your 10th house, it's like you are on, this drive and just opens up the doors to you when you get out there in the world. The world takes you in.
Right, like everything just falls into place.
And then in the 11th house. So now you've got your dreams, hopes, wishes going with that power of your 10th house,
right, going along with your career goals.
Yeah, so that's a really good point.
Another thing that I noticed is she has Saturn trine Uranus in her chart, and it shows that she learned from her mistakes. She learned from her mistakes. She acquired discipline. She knew she had to take risk in order to succeed. She knew she had to step out there. She knew she had to do some of those crazy things in order to get noticed, in order to get talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, she really is so far ahead of her time. I mean, at one point, I believe she was doing a Coca-Cola commercial, and, she didn't
burn some crosses and got people up in arms.
Really, she went out on a ledge, and they canceled her. She paid the price for it. But ultimately, again, it was a part of breaking down systems, a part of breaking down, the boundaries of an artist. I mean, and I think that's that Aquarius as well. They don't stay comfortable. They don't like to have a title. As soon as you give them a title, they bust out of it. Mm-hmm. So as soon as they started calling her this, she became this.
Right.
Now she was able to constantly transform, which I think is so interesting.
Right. She also has Sun sextile her Jupiter, and also being an Aquarius rising. Deep down, she really is a humanitarian. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I hear people say, well, she's just doing this or that for publicity, and that probably pisses her off because, when you're being your authentic self and you're reaching out there to really help people, and then someone just saying, oh, you're doing it for publicity. You know, I really feel she has this need to really want to help people, and that goes along with that, you know, 10th house and 11th house in Sagittarius. You know, she really wants to see a better world. She really wants to create a better world, and that's why one of the things I think she broke out and did all that crazy stuff to get people to say and notice that, hey, there are different people here. You know, let's stop going along with the old ways of doing things. Let's switch it up. You know, let's shake up the system a little bit.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because even though she does have Venus in Leo, she's on the cusp of that.
Right.
She's on the cusp of that. So you've got Venus in Cancer. You know, she just moved into Leo, 1.09 degrees, what I'm seeing. And, you know, there's that Cancerian energy there.
Right. The mothering energy
there. And as much as she has been, you know, put up as this sex symbol and all of these things, she's got that heart of that Italian mama. It's just hiding underneath. So, you know, she got a little bit of both worlds.
Right.
But, I mean, that is intuitive. That is connected. I mean, that energy is there.
And that Mercury in Virgo in the 7th house, you have your Mercury in the 7th house, right?
Yeah, 6th house.
Sixth?
Wait, 7th house. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
I have it written down right here.
At this chart, yes.
You know, Mercury in the 7th house, and hers is in Virgo, which, you know, is in its sign of exaltation. And back to, again, she really knows how to get people going. She really does have a way with people. You know, she knows how to communicate with people. You know, she has this deep understanding of art. And
absolutely.
And it's conjunct her moon. You know, so she really knows how to pull from within. That's how I see it.
Well, and she's highly perfectionistic. I mean, that is just total perfectionistic. And, you know, it's funny because a few years back, she wrote a children's book. When her daughter was young, her daughter helped her, and she got a lot of criticism for it, because how can you write, you know, over here you're writing sex books, and then over here you're writing children's books. Now you're writing children's books, you know, but really, again, when you look at somebody's natal chart, we're able to see all the different dynamics of somebody. And when I see Moon, Mercury, and Virgo, number one, they are the number one children book writers, Virgos.
Right.
Because we see everything in like these colors, like It's a Small World. You know, Disneyland. Everything is in these pictures for a Virgo. And, you know, there she is going through this period of time. I should have looked it up. I kind of had it back in my mind, but I bet you it was during Saturn and Virgo when that book was written.
Early 2000s, like 2004, 2003, 5, 6.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was somewhere around that time.
Okay. Well, it was, you know, that was that time where, you know, Saturn was in Leo and Saturn was in Virgo. So she was being highly charged by Saturn to start, you know, laying down a foundation of who she is. She went through a spiritual change, you know, and, you know, but she wrote these children's books, and I believe those are truly dear to her heart, as well as everything else she's done.
Right. I don't think she puts out anything that she, that's not close to her heart.
Yes.
I don't think she'll put out an album that, you know, she didn't really work hard on, or, you know, some people when they see Madonna, they'll just say, well, you know, oh, she's just gallivanting, she's just winging it. But like you said, Mercury in Virgo, she really puts a lot, and Moon in Virgo, she puts a lot of thought into everything she does. She doesn't make a move without thinking about it and analyzing it over and over and over. You know, that's her whole controversy.
Well, and her physical ability, I mean, she's so physically fit. I mean, and it you know, it would border on, you know, obsessive compulsive training, but that is normal for a moon Mercury Virgo to be that self-aware and need to release that kind of Mercurian energy. And a lot of times they do that through their physical body, through workouts, through intense training. I mean, that's a part, you know, that's a lot of heavy energy when you've got Moon Mercury conjunct like that. So these, you know, she's very athletic, obviously, but that drive to continually, drive her body. At her age, she looks fantastic, and she's still working out.
Right.
So.
One of the things that I just was like, wow, when I looked at her chart was, aren't you in the Neptune and Scorpio generation?
Yes.
It's in her 8th house.
Ooh.
I was like, oh my God, because Neptune deals with illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And in Scorpio, in the 8th house, that just must, she has a deep spiritual connection to things. She brought about the whole Kabbalah thing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure she's very spiritual, but also wanting to take off the veils of illusion, wanting to really get down deep inside of things and to discover new things.
Well, absolutely. In fact, I have that same conjunction. I'm a Pisces rising, but Scorpio fell into my 8th house, and I've got Neptune and Scorpio. In fact, Saturn's like hovering over right now. But you know what? I really had no idea until I got older how deeply psychic that is. And I really believe, in my personal experience and in my studies of it, that when you have Scorpio in the 8th house, it's like having Mars in Scorpio in your chart. That's how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of somebody with Mars and Scorpio in their chart, now take somebody who has basically Mars and Pluto in the 8th house, you're getting that same powerful energy now connected to Neptune.
Right.
Your psychic ability, as much as she really kind of has a lot of air and earth and fire down deep underneath, yes,
it makes up for all of that.
Deeply spiritual connection, and she's deeply intuitive. I mean, it's hard to say how different people express that, but I would definitely agree that there's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm. Mars in Taurus in the 3rd house, right?
Yes.
It's in the 3rd house. And the 3rd house is the house of communication and media. So I think that added to, her being successful. Because, one of my favorite mottos for Mars and Taurus is, slow and steady wins the race. She kept at it, she kept going, and she knew, assured of victory in the 3rd house of communication and other people in media.
Yeah, and I think one thing to look at about that on top of that is the fact is that's where she got her beautiful voice.
Mm.
She's got Mars in Taurus, and it expresses itself through the 3rd house.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Taurus being ruled by Venus. Now we've got Jupiter in Libra. We even have the North Node in Libra, which is why I believe her vocal cords and her music ability got better with age.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind of hip-hoppy the first years, and nobody gave her any credit. But when she came out with, was it Evita? Or am I saying
the movie
right?
where she had to sing opera, or the operatic style of singing.
Oh, yeah, and she wanted that. She wanted that. But if you hear her in that, she is phenomenal. And, I mean, I didn't even know she had a voice like that. But looking at her chart, seeing that as she entered into her North Node, she also got that, that's Venus. That's what rules the voice. It rules the vocal cords. It gives. In Taurus, you've got the double whammy of being able to understand musical vibration. I believe that's where you see her gift.
That's why also, she has that full 7th house, and then she has this Mars in Taurus. She's predominantly ruled by the planet Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Probably made her want to become an artist, want to become a singer, want to become a dancer. She is the planet Venus. And then to have that Sun in Leo, powerful energy match with all that Venus energy, it's, you have no other choice but to become an artist, but to become a creator.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say something, too, about the 8th house in Scorpio, because that's such an intimate place, and it just kind of hit me. She lost her mother when she was very young.
Right.
Very, very young girl. Being on the cusp of Venus and Cancer, a lot of times you will see, depending on how things line up, Venus and Cancer, you can see a lot of problems with the mother or taking care of a mother or losing a mother. And you've got that, connecting to the 8th house Scorpio. And I just wonder, 8th house is a lot about those deep family pains, deep intimate relationships. I think you see that, losing her mother at a very young age, and how she still rose from the ashes.
Right.
So there's the other side of that eighth house energy,
Well, as you brought that up, she said, in many interviews, she sort of had to create a mother, which, Neptune's in there, dealing with illusion. She had to create a mental picture of what her mother may be like, or, what her mother may have done, did, or just was like. Neptune, of course, that's an illusion we all create in our mind, and Neptune and Scorpio in the 8th house deals with illusions.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You're right. I bet that really, that was a part of that connection to her. But having, a lot of times, again, having Scorpio in the 8th house, you can connect to the other side. And probably throughout the years, through dreams, through situations, through symbols, she felt her mother there. She may not have publicly talked about it, but it's very possible that she had that ability when she was alone. And it's there.
Right. Now what I want to talk about is the Madonna behind closed doors.
Ooh.
I feel like we've talked about Madonna, the public persona thus far, but like getting back to the moon, behind closed doors, I think Madonna is, I don't want to use the word boring behind closed door, but I feel when she's at home by herself, it's not a show. She's sitting on the couch, she's maybe eating popcorn, watching TV. It's not all theatrics. I think she's much more sensitive, much more calm and at peace in this wild Aquarian energy that she displays on stage.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the fact that she's got Moon, Mercury in Virgo, and then Mars in Taurus, another Earth sign, just taking those three, that tells me I can picture her home, watering her plants, having a little garden outside, sitting out on the patio. I mean, if she allows herself, it's hard with that Virgonian energy to allow yourself to rest, but they're practical. They're busy about in their home, and they love to be about their home where they're secure. Her daily routine, 6th house Cancer. There you go, security at home. And she did a lot of her work from home, her planning and creating before she went out. So, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of interesting, but I agree with you. I think much more practical, easygoing.
Not so much over the top. You just, she just wants to be at home, being practical.
Yeah, a good old boring Virgo.
I'm sure the things she does, she likes to read. I've seen Doc. She loves to read. I can just see her at home, maybe on the bed, just reading. She loves knowledge. She loves to take in things. She likes to study. She likes to learn new things with that Mercury and Virgo. But it's also retrograde, isn't it?
It is retrograde, and I'm kind of thinking about that. What do you think about that?
This is one of the things why I wanted Penny here, because Penny also has Mercury retrograde in her chart. I know it deals with taking in information in a different form, and taking it in at a slower rate than what, she really takes things and dissects them, and she let it sit inside, and then before she presents it. That's why I think she's so well at, in a way, manipulating the media.
Well, and you can see her in her interviews. If you've watched any of her interviews, it's very interesting, because it's like, she really almost is like, I can't wait to get out of the interview. But when she's performing, she's on fire. But sitting and talking and communicating, you can see that little bit of that inner struggle. There's almost a shyness there. She's bold, but it's not over the top. And she's a little bit witty, She's that little, that little manipulative side. And how, like you said, how she takes control of the media. But I think Mercury and Virgo in particular can have a harder time communicating in everyday communication, getting that out. Right.
I've read a book that her brother had wrote about her, and he said, at home she really is, first of all, she's a lot more sensitive than what she appears to be, and she deals with her insecurities, and also, she hates standing still when she's performing. She'd much rather be moving and, bouncing around and jumping around. But she also said, she had that supreme confidence in her ever since she was a little girl. So I feel, she had a drive for success with being a Leo, all that Venus energy in her chart, Saturn in the 10th house. She really wanted to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
She really was assured of herself.
Well, and I think there's one thing to look at here too, just to take another angle at Mars and Taurus. That's a money planet.
Right.
And in all the charts I've looked at, every time I see that Mars and Taurus, they do well financially. They are driven. It almost takes on a Capricorn feel to it. It's like they've got this total ambition. Financial security is extremely important. I mean, and like I said, having a little bit of that, on that cusp of Venus and Cancer, her security and the ability to calculate through the Virgonian energy, I mean, she knows that money is power.
Right.
Money is power for Mars and Taurus.
So what? She's almost worth $1 billion, right? I know she has an art collection that's worth $100+ million.
Wow.
That I do know. So, again, Taurus is all about possessions and collecting things and, in a way, hoarding wealth. And it deals with security in the second house. And like you said, Venus and Cancer. So, she really wanted to make sure she had a lovely nest egg in a way.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I'm kind of looking again at the fact that she's got Sun and Venus and Leo. And, a lot of times when you have that energy, it does make your relationships difficult because the Sun is the ego and it, it outweighs love. It's like it kind of overpowers the love, Venus, and it's at a higher degree. So you've got her ego with all that powerful Leo energy there. And then you've got Venus, wanting that attention, wanting somebody to basically revolve their whole life around her.
Right, right.
She needed someone that basically could revolve their, and men get competitive, or they don't like to have to be, Mrs. Madonna or Mr. Madonna. But she needed a Mr. Madonna, that's really, to make it work, she needs somebody that's just available for her at all times, but it's still a man.
Right.
It can't be a Klingon, it can't be a wimpy, it has to be like, that's a tall order, full-blown man, but yet willing to drop anything for her at any time and, be the knight in shining armor. I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
It's a hard call.
And like I read her brother's book on her, and, he said it's not easy living with or loving Madonna. But, I not to blame her in a way, but, when you walk around being this superstar for the past 30 years and everyone just blowing smoke up your ass or kissing it or telling you how great you are, her ego is maybe like this. But, one of the things that jumped out to me that he said in the book that, she rarely shows her sensitive side to people. Even him being her brother, he's only seen it a few times. And I think she's, even though she has a moon in Virgo, she's very protective over her feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, look, Aquarius can be very detached.
Right.
We know that. They don't like messy emotions. She also has Capricorn in the 12th house. That's that place inside of you, that deep place inside of you, that subconscious. So, I mean, there's protection of her inner self there as well. Capricorn is very protective of emotions.
Right.
The Leo, yes, they're warm and happy and life of the party, but reality is it still is all about them. They have to be the center of attention. You've got this moon and Mercury and Virgo, and Virgos aren't really that great about sharing their emotions either. If I wasn't a Pisces, it's my Pisces that gives me away. But the Virgo, I can be very reserved. Right. I can shut that baby down, and she doesn't have a lot that's going to be out there in the forefront.
Right. Well, those are my notes. Do you have anything else that you want to discuss? I know you have her chart pulled up, and I got scared because it crashed. I shut down everything, and this is the only thing that's up right now. So there's anything that stands out to you that you want to talk about more? I'm sure you can go on and on and on.
Oh gosh, we could go on and on. I just want to say, as an icon, I just will say in closing that Leos are icons. They are, you know, they have that innate. It's not, you know, it's innate being. It's like you have to fulfill your calling. And with this kind of chart, it was within her, and she had to fulfill it. And sometimes it took climbing over bodies, dead bodies, and getting to the top, or whatever it took. She wasn't going to be stopped, and you know, she couldn't stop herself. She had to fulfill that, and she did it. And she did it. And here's a powerful chart. Here's a very powerful chart. Not without heartache, not without deep emotional pain in her family, and behind the scenes there's deep emotional pain. But she still came out, and she is an icon. You know, she branded herself, and she made it. I mean, there's just, you know.
You look at her chart, and it's like she fulfilled the purpose of that chart, you know. She took control over it, you know. Even, I know she's into astrology, so, you know, she probably saw her chart and saw the potential that she had and just grabbed it.
Well, you know, I wonder, you know, like a lot of us from my generation, as far as astrology charts, we're not seeing those till now in our life. So, you know, and I don't know, but, you know, if she's seen this now, I'm sure that it's all making sense to her now. If somebody's explained it to her, how powerful her chart is, and her, you know, that she did it, that she fulfilled it, you know. But I wonder if she knew anything about any of this when she was young and was just going on raw instinct.
Right. Probably not. Just letting that Leo lead the way.
Yep. But she's shown us all sides of her. If you go back in history and you look at all of her albums and all of her work, her movies, everything she's done, she literally gives us that personal transformation. She shows us little pieces of it, and if we're looking for it, you'll see that evolutionary process, that growth process, as she continued to reinvent herself. And, you know, like I said, you know, she was before her time, but she didn't let that stop her. That's what I love. She broke, you know, she broke the barriers. So
there you go.
There you go.
Thank you for joining me, Crystal, Cowgirl Astrologer. I'll even put the link to her page at the bottom of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Me and Crystal had a great time talking about it, if you couldn't tell.
Well, you got to tell real quick that we've been talking about, you've been wanting me to do this chart for a couple years now.
Right. I've known you for, what, 2 or 3 years? We've been in contact with each other for about 2 or 3 years, right? I think the first conversation we've talked, I asked you to do her chart.
You've asked me like 10 times, and I promised you I would, and I never could pull it together. I wanted to.
Right.
And then you're finally up and going and doing such an awesome job on your channel and such an awesome job with your videos. And when you said you want to do Madonna, I was like, how perfect.
Right. It all came together, right? It all came together.
Yes. I mean, I love doing the chart with you, so thank you for having me on. I really had a good time.
Thank you for joining me, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to Crystal's channel. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye-bye.